All right, why don't we get started? Everybody, welcome to the ZBA. It's September 8th, and we'll start out with a Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. For those of us who were up late last night watching the Bills game, if I yawn, it's no disrespect intended. It was a good game. We're going to do today, again, the agenda, we'll take a look at the minutes. That I think everyone on the board got an email copy, and there were some changes that were distributed, and I think Michelle made them, so we can take a quick look at those and set in a motion to approve or change. Go over old business if we have it, or new business. We'll talk about that for a second, and then we'll open the public hearing. So we'll go over Luke's application for some changes. And then is someone from McGuire here?
No, they won't be here. It was polled.
Oh, it was?
Yes.
What?
Oh.
Postponed? What did you say?
The letter that you sent me, they withdrawn their application.
Oh, I didn't read it, I just.
Yeah, they withdrew their application.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Okay. All right, well, that makes that easy then.
They want to, and I've got to get back to their attorney. They have a question about the normal relief that you get and the chapter relating to signs, and I want to get back to them about that.
Okay. The only little blip we're going to have in the meeting today is because I'm an employee of National Grid and I run the real estate department, one of the things you've got going on is with National Grid that's dealing with this application. So I'm going to step down for the public hearing. Folks can have that discussion. I was going to step back up for the McGuire discussion, but that's easy. I can leave. I won't leave. I'll get
You can step up to adjourn.
Exactly. Yeah, we step up to adjourn. So then Jim Saratowski's our alternate. He's here up on the board today, so he's going to get a little bit of a lesson in being part of the board, and Matt Fox is going to run the meeting, so that's good. That's what we'll do. So if folks have, Michelle distributed the minutes. If we could take a couple of minutes, if you haven't already done it, please take a look at them. And if everyone has done it, I'll just ask for a motion to approve or suggest changes if they're required.
Approve with the changes that were made.
Oh, okay, but these are,
Yes,
These are changed, so-
motion to approve the minutes as changed.
okay,
I'll second it.
second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Old business. The only other thing that we had going on was the one applicant that was waiting for a survey map. He still hasn't been able to provide that, so we're holding on that. Any other old business? New business? You said you had one item?
Yeah, you want to do it after the hearing?
Up to you.
We do it after, yeah, quick.
Okay. So with that, I'm going to step down, and that was quick. So I'll let you open the public meeting, you can have it. So, go ahead.
Okay, so I guess need a motion to open the
Motion to open the public hearing.
Second.
Fine. A second.
Rocco.
Can we use our names?
Yes.
And all in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so this again is for 20 Aspen Springs Drive, tax parcel 006-19-01.0 for an area variance. There was the publication date of August 27th, and the applicable code here is section 166-4 and sections A and C-A, height limitations. A fence shall not exceed the height of 6 feet for any residential property. And C, the good side shall face away from the property and toward the adjacent owner. So we have the applicant here, Mr. Luke Evans. And to Michelle, were the neighboring properties notified?
Yes.
And did we get any correspondence?
No.
Are there any, is anyone from the public present to speak in favor of variance? Okay, you need a name?
We will get a name in a second, so let's go. Well, actually, when we open this up, we can ask for a name and then what's going on.
Okay. And anybody from the public here to speak against the variance? Are all board members familiar with the property?
Yes.
Yes.
Did everybody have a chance to visit the property?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So now I turn it over to you guys to learn more about the application again.
Well, last meeting, I was asked to try to provide some more detail. Needed a little assistance from the surveyor. Bob has the rendering. It's dated Friday, September 5th. Surveyors are slow, as I've said. But they've made some changes to better illustrate this. And I color-coded for ease of understanding as well. Even as color-coded, it can be confusing, but I wanted to illustrate what was non-conforming, which is in pink, and those are the two areas where we seek relief. And the parts that are conforming, there are some issues that have to be handled separately with National Grid. We are just showing where that shed is going to be, and then there will be a conforming extension of the fence where after the shed's been moved.
That's in the back corner there.
The key is that we were unable to work anything out wherein the shed could remain in the restricted area. It has to be moved as part of an agreement. It's the next step. Once we know what we're doing or not doing with the fence, then we can complete the agreement.
All right. Board, any questions?
What's the situation with the National Grid easement and the way the fence is now? Will that be addressed?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely. And again, it's the relief sought deals with the height of the fence and what it's facing. We contend that, yes, it does not conform. There's no argument there, but can it be taken into consideration that both those sides face commercial property, actually property owned by the village? And one of the side where the shed is, which is the west side, it's all overgrown back there anyway. You can't tell if you go stand in your lot there, you can't really tell what the fence looks like. But again, it's just aesthetics, and no other reason is there any harm done by those as they exist now. I understand the concept of self-created hardship, of course, and we've done our part with the village to make them whole with respect to the stop work order, the court action, and we're looking for forgiveness going forward.
So you may want to ask the applicant to speak about the 5 requirements to obtain the visa.
Yes.
As long as we're talking
Sure.
easements, if the variance is granted, will that satisfy any of the requirements for the village easement that runs through? Because I see the fence goes.
Correct,
Yeah,
correct. Actually, as shown, that's it really hasn't been used. It showed as a gravel area on the survey, but it was overgrown, and the surveyor wanted to show that, there's gravel there. You guys have had a chance to look inside and outside of that? And I leave that to your discretion.
Well, the fence is on the village easement, the way I see it.
Mm-hmm.
So if we were to grant the variance,
Yes.
will that go against any of the restrictions that the village has with that easement, what you can and can't do?
That's a question for the village.
Well,
In other
we
words-
talked about the easements before.
Yeah.
You were going to make sure that if we were to give the variance, that would not contradict any of the easements that were existing on the property. I mean, I asked about that before,
Well,
and I don't know
if it's a contradiction and it's a problem for the village, do we have to reapply for that?
Well, it seems to me we should answer that question needs to be answered. I mean, I don't know, as I said before, I don't know what the water easement is.
Yeah, it's very difficult. I do have a copy of the easement.
I just want to make sure that if we were to grant the variance, that it isn't going to go against any of the restrictions on the easement. Again, I don't have that in front of me, I don't know what it says.
It might be just useful to get a letter from the village attorney after reading the village easement to say that it's.
Yeah, I mean, the water easement itself relates to basically allowing stormwater runoff, that sort of thing. I don't see on the survey, I do not see within that easement any water lines or water pipes that are.
Yeah, as far as water runoff, it was the verbiage in the easement speaks specifically to the village being able to access. You got your water tower and everything else back here, and that's really what it's been used for. It's for access, not for drainage or culverts or anything else.
Yeah, and I think the way that it's set up, it looks like access would be available because of the.
Correct. Yeah, and it's, I think for what it's worth, like I said, I think the easement was poorly drawn at the time. It was done in 2008 for Aspen Springs Section 1. Aspen Springs Section 3, which includes our lot, didn't come into existence until 2013. But they really didn't put a specific description in there, but that's the way this is shown when maps were filed later. Subdivision map was filed later, these are the dimensions. Does the village need all that? That's a good question.
Well, I will tell the board, I have requested the head of DPW to check this out and let me know if there are particular issues. And he's not gotten back to me. You can always, if you decide to adopt the variance, you could always adopt it subject to the village easement rules.
Okay.
So, to Bob's point about the 5 questions that we're ultimately going to be, considering here. The first is whether an undesirable change would be produced in the character of the neighborhood or a detriment to nearby properties, whether benefits sought by the applicant can be achieved by a feasible alternative to the variance, whether the requested variance is substantial, would the variance have an adverse impact on physical or environmental conditions of the neighborhood, and whether the alleged difficulty was self-created.
All 5 of which are, to one extent or another, subjective standards that I have to leave to the discretion of the board and to look at everything as a whole. And
Okay.
But do you have any comments or again, this is an evidentiary proceeding. Do you have any comments relative to your position on any of these?
My position is that, again, I don't see where it creates an undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood. Again, that's why the public can weigh in on that, of course. Same substantial detriment to the nearby properties. Does it bother the village that when they're accessing their commercial use, that the fence looks the way it does? The other feasible, there really isn't another feasible method other than the variance. We can either keep it or we can't. And again, is it substantial? That's up to everybody's discretion.
When you are talking about the conforming fence, those are conforming in all respects? In other words, the good side is out,
Yes,
and the only place that the good side is in the back?
that's correct.
I just want to get that on the record.
Thank you.
The back and the one side is where the good side is out,
Northwest and west.
yeah,
Thanks.
the backyard and the side that abuts the village property.
Yeah.
Any more questions from you?
I think I'm-
Is there a reason why you installed it that way? Why you reversed it? I'm just curious.
Aesthetics.
Aesthetic? Sure. And the missing pieces, you stopped because there was no
Because
order
of
to
the
stop
stop
work
work order, correct.
I think the only thing that I wanted to add was to make sure that that didn't cause a runoff. We were talking earlier, you were talking earlier about DPW commenting on the one area. If it was just to gain access or if it caused an actual runoff in that area. And I think you said, Bob, that we would have that clarified by the head of the
Yeah,
DPW.
you could, if you decided to grant the variance, you could grant it subject to village regulations.
Right. I didn't want to create a potential issue afterwards.
Yeah.
Just like if you wanted, there is an agreement between the applicant and the village and National Grid relative to the requirements to provide access to National Grid to their power lines inside their easement. And the board, if they grant an easement, if they grant a variance, can also make that variance conditioned upon ultimate conformance with the agreement, which provides opening in the fences to allow National Grid to be able to access the internal area.
I would go back to one thing that we just talked about, for building the fence the way you did, aesthetics.
Yes, sir.
Is that good side, bad side?
Yes.
And then is
And
that,
height,
what about
because
height?
of what they're looking at and the pictures that I supplied last meeting.
Okay. So when you say what they're looking at, the water towers and all that stuff, okay.
And, the extra couple feet help when their kids get older and get antsy and want to climb over.
Sir, if you wanted to say your name, address, and your comments of support.
Mark Wegner, the only adjoining neighbor. Could I get those 5 questions real fast? I'm gonna rattle off my own nonsense.
Yes, sir.
So, are we gonna introduce my right here?
Yes, sir.
All right, the requested variance will not produce an undesirable change in the characteristic of the neighborhood. Again, the only adjoining fence as 24 Aspen Springs, I would much rather look at the taller fence than all of the nonsense that's in the back there, generators, lights. We've got some of the trees that are still up from behind my fence to go through. When that generator kicks on, because of whatever various reasons, that light will just shine right through. It's not bushy enough for it to block anything. So as he's got younger children and dogs, they'd much rather see a fence than a bunch of lights going off whenever. So yes, I'd rather see the fence and of course the good side of the fence. Substantial detriment will be created by nearby properties. I am the nearby property, so no detriment there. There was no feasible method available to achieve. Again, there was nothing back there besides Alberici left garbage and rocks and nonsense back there. I've walked back there with my dogs and my kids and, random tires, and kids used to go up there and do kid things before we all moved in the area. So it's better as it is now. The requested variance is not substantial. 2 feet, I don't think that's that substantial. Again, I'd rather see the better side of the fence and that higher fence. And the last piece here, the proposed variance will not have adverse effect, impact on the area or environmental conditions. If anything, Luke has made the area better with seeding and taking care of that whole area than what it was before. Questions?
Thank you.
Well,
Great.
Ask one other question. It looks like between the house and the gravel driveway, there were some shrubs or trees planted at some point.
those are by the previous owners.
Okay. Would it be possible to do some sort of screening that would hide the bad side of the fence? On the side that abuts the village property? Shrubs.
I think the only reasonable alternative, if the board doesn't approve the variance, is for me to put panels on the opposite side. The concerns that I have for that are based in costs, labor, and just the carpenter bees that we have on the hill. I'll have no way to get to them. So I don't suppose that shrubs, it would cost me a fortune to plant arborvitaes along that whole fence line. I would likely have to just put panels on the other side of that fence.
I was wondering if there was a way that, and I'm not necessarily saying the whole fence line. My concern is there's a lot of fence there. And part of the reason there's a lot of fence is because the house is shifted to one side rather than centered on the lot. So there is going to be more fence, and that's just the way it is. When I drive in there, I see the back side of the fence from the road. So it was just wondering if there was something you thought you could do to just soften that visual, because that visual concerns me a little bit. That everybody that drives in there sees the bad side of the fence. And I noted that there was, it appears that there were some trees or shrubs planted to screen the driveway from your house. And was asked if you had done that, because that's what I was kind of getting at. Is there a way to do something like that with a fence that could be simpler, that just kind of blocks some of that ugly view as I
look at it to see if, are you talking just between the gravel drive and the front of the fence there?
No, I'm talking is I drive in Aspen Springs, you see a lot of the back side of the fence. So is there just, would it be possible to do a little screening somehow that would hide some of the ugliness? And then my thinking was maybe that's a simple solution.
You're not talking right up next to it, you're just something to block it visually and keep it away so that the bees wouldn't be an issue still.
I don't know about the bees, I'm just, you know,
Yeah, getting to
I'm just, you know, my opinion is there's a lot of ugly backside of the fence that everybody going into that neighborhood sees, and that's kind of out of character for the neighborhood when I drive through the neighborhood. And, you know, you're going to have a lot of fence, and I'm fine with that because of the way it's situated. You know, there is a lot of industrial area next to you with all the village stuff, and I understand that, but I just kind of seeing that back side of the fence bothered me a little bit, so I was just wondering if there was any way that could be a simpler way to do some screening.
I'd be open to it, for sure, if there was a solution.
Yeah, and I don't know if there is, I mean, I assume that you've got room that you could do something like that. You know, I don't know how the other board members feel about that, but that was one thought that I had.
What color is the fence?
It's natural, it's just pressure treated.
Do you have a picture, do we have a picture of this lot by chance? Get it from last time, it was in the file.
I know. Those are my files, I don't think it's in there
Recirculate those here. Thanks. I've never done any fence work before, so forgive me if this is an ignorant question, but how much work and labor to turn the fence at the proper way? Do you just detach it from the posts and can move it around?
It would be substantially cheaper and easier for me to hang panels on the other side than it would be for me to take off the existing panels and move them around to the other side.
It looks like the back side. Yeah. Does anybody have thoughts about screening? If something could be done to kind of screen that backside, so that as you're driving in, anybody else have any feelings about that, or?
I know that we planted fast-growing trees and they actually work. I don't know if that would be beneficial, they were cost-effective, and it was Arbor Day.
I'm abstaining from the discussion, but the only thing I wouldn't want to see Luke or the family invest in trees because much of this area is covered by that National Grid easement, and the portion you're talking about right there is within the trim easement, so I wouldn't want you to grow something that's going to have...
Create yet another issue.
Yeah. Well, I've seen that happen before. People invest in it and then they get the next clearing cycle get cleared out. So.
Yeah.
But again, there's a lot of things that if it's not higher than the tree or or the fence you've got out there, we already know that's in compliance. So I think there's a lot of wiggle room to do something if that's really a concern. I didn't see a picture of the back of the fence. I saw, but anyway.
No, I hear it does. But you said there's carpenter bees back there?
Yeah, the whole neighborhood at the top of the hill, usually in the spring, we're infested with carpenter bees, so.
That's another thing I have too.
Yeah, if I put the panels on both sides, at
That's
this
gonna
point,
be a
I'll have no
harbor.
access to them on the inside, which it just shortens the lifespan of the fences. would be the issue with that.
You know, I suffer with the same thing, I get it sprayed though.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people do in the village.
I think ours are immune.
Huh?
I think ours are immune.
I'll give you a name.
I asked about the generator lights, that was mentioned. When the generator kicks on, there's lights.
Yep.
Where are those lights?
From my point of view, they're right over the fence. I would be very surprised if Luke has to see them.
So they're 8 feet high, 9 feet, 10 feet high?
They're just above a man door, so whatever the height of a man door would be,
Seven.
they set right above it. So from our first floor, our living room, and from the backyard, we can't see them over the fence as it sits. From our second floor, we can see them just over the fence. It's a motion activated light that activates at various times throughout the night.
So if the fence was 6 feet instead of 8 feet, you would be seeing a lot more of that light as you're reactivating, is that right?
We would be able to see them from our first
First
floor if
floor,
we
okay.
cut 2 feet off the fence.
So
yes.
that was able to at least eliminate that light from your first level of your house?
Yes.
And how often are those lights going on? I mean,
Every day.
They go on and off approximately every 15 to 30 minutes throughout the night.
If I might, at least according to the internet, which is always right, but it does appear that the average man door height is 80 inches, so it's just, that's 6'8", 6 foot.
I think I'm good.
So, go through the questions. And
Yeah, I mean.
Close public hearing.
Yeah, normally what you're gonna do is, again, ask if anybody's got any more to offer, which folks have offered about, defending the position of these things, and then you can close the public hearing and then just have a discussion with the board as to, their thoughts on each of the questions, based on the information you've got, so.
Okay. So, yeah, I guess any final comments, questions for us even, from the board?
From the applicant or the attorney.
We'll close the public hearing. A motion. Kevin,
Rocco, second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
This is for discussion.
All right. Do we want to go through the questions?
Do you have questions?
Okay. So the first would be whether undesirable change would be produced in the character of the neighborhood or detriment to nearby properties.
So with that, have we had any other neighbors complain about this fence? Nobody's come to the board or the village and complained about his fence? Nobody?
The only neighbor is here and has
Right.
said that it's actually not a detriment, but
Right.
the opposite of a detriment, correct?
Like the people in the apartments, nobody's, complained?
Right, when the board thinks about these questions, if you say whether an undesirable change would be made, if your conclusion, personally or collectively, is no, a wise attorney once told me to say no because, try to fill in the because the only person here to speak was speaking in favor.
Right.
Again, I'm just trying to tell you guys how to think about these questions as you're looking at them.
Right. I mean, if nobody else, like you said, if nobody else complained, the only person here is in favor of it.
Well, you also have all viewed the property, and you've driven up and down Aspen Springs, now that it's paved. And you can determine for yourselves as well, having each of you, as a matter of record, if it's visually seen the property, you can see if it stands out in such a way that is a change to the neighborhood.
Yeah, and because there's only one thing, it's because of what Bob just said, because I've seen it, and this is what I think, and because the only neighbors spoke in favor and no one else spoke against, so just think about it that way as you're going through the questions. And I would just ask each of the applicants if they agree with what's going on, each of the board members.
Okay.
So for the first one,
Yeah.
it sounds like there's no detrimental effect to the neighborhood. And possibility of resale would be adversely, I don't think adversely affected.
I personally think no as well, because as I was driving through, it's kind of, you have to almost, it felt like be in front of the house to start to notice that it was reversed when you were coming in front of the East Genesee. And then obviously going out, you're probably not going to catch it. So for me, it was a no.
I don't think there's a detriment to the nearby properties. Really, the property that would be affected would be the village. I think I kind of am leaning toward that there is an undesirable change to the character of the neighborhood, because when I drove in from Anheuser there and I saw all the fence and I saw a lot of the backside of the fence, and that concerned me because, driving through the neighborhood, I didn't see a lot of that. It was kind of everything was kind of real consistent. And as I said, there is a lot of fence that's not your fault, but you do see a lot of that backside of the fence on the side coming in from Anheuser, and I thought that was out of character.
Yeah, to me, it's a no. It's, based on, it's a because, what the neighbor says in terms of what it looks like, because there is, when I drive there, I see a bunch of towers and construction and things that are not desirable to look at, and then there's only one neighbor that's there, that's next to them, and that neighbor is saying that the fence is desirable as it exists. So I would feel like if it was my shoes, I would want that 8 feet for, well, I guess we're not talking about the 8 feet, but anyways, to me, it didn't look like it was a detriment to the neighborhood.
We are talking also.
Oh, we are talking about,
Yeah.
oh, so then,
That side and 8 feet.
and the 8 feet is, again, looking at what it's up against, these big tall towers that are really more of a visual detriment to the neighborhood than the fence itself. That I think the fence, like, to me, it doesn't. I'm distracted by all the other stuff, and that the fence is the least thing that I'm looking at when I'm looking at that property.
Good point.
May I ask, how long have you owned the property? I don't, it probably says here, but,
We purchased in October of 2023.
okay. And nothing was there at that point? Nothing in the backyard?
No, nothing in the backyard.
Are we having Jim participate?
Yeah, I mean, I feel it doesn't produce an undesirable change. There is a change to the height of the fence because it is also the height, it stands out. But like you said, I mean, there are so many other things in view. I'm familiar with the area for other reasons, so I know what that fence is hiding. So I feel that it doesn't produce an undesirable change to the neighborhood because you are so isolated in that one corner. So.
And then Peg? whether the benefit sought by the applicant can be achieved by a feasible alternative to the variance.
I think we've already discussed that, and it would cause more expense to the applicant. So I think I would agree with what they're doing at this point, more of an improvement.
Yep, and I agree with that as well, and I don't think I have any additional comments.
So you both said no.
Yeah, sorry, so no, and Peg said no.
To what number are we?
Number 2.
Oh, we detriment to property, or we do other feasible?
Oh, I'm sorry, I have 2 lists on.
Yeah, there's.
I'm sorry, so right now we're talking about the feasible alternative to the variance.
Initially, I was thinking that what you were asking for wasn't needed. You didn't need the extra 2 feet of height because you said the original purpose of the fence was for safety of the kids and to keep the dogs contained. So if 6 feet is okay over here, well, then you don't necessarily need 8 foot there. That was my initial thinking. As far as the good side, bad side, you're looking at, a lot of bad side, and you got a little bit of good side on the non-conforming part of it. But I think one of the things that I am kind of pondering and thinking about, the generator lights, that's a reason that you need the 8-foot fence. So that is certainly something that I am thinking about, and the 8-foot height bothers me a lot less than the bad side facing out. So I'm going to answer that. Yes, I think there is another feasible method, but I am definitely thinking about that, and I'm not quite there yet, but I think I have to answer that one, yes.
I would be a no because I feel that looking at, well, again, with the floodlights, I agree with you on that the 8 feet, there's no feasible way that, like they explained, it's the lights are lights, you can't block the lights in other ways, and that in terms of the good side, bad side, I fall back on just, from my visual inspection of it, it doesn't look that bad, and I'm distracted by the other visual things in that neighborhood, and that it's hardly noticeable in my opinion on that. And then the neighbor also agrees that that is not an issue or a detriment. So I don't see there being really a reasonable way to change that. I was thinking about your idea about putting shrubs and things along those lines, which was, I think, a good idea, but then again, throwing in, that there's issues with easements and things along those lines, that could create a separate problem, so that's not feasible either.
Kind of borderline with this one. I mean, I think there are other methods available. Did you ever reach out to the fence company to see how much they would charge to reverse that?
I built it myself.
Oh, you built it yourself?
I did.
Okay.
Yes.
So there was no labor other than your own, no cost of labor, just materials?
Yeah.
Okay. And if I'm looking at the survey, the trimming rates, so National Grid can come in and just mow the grass if they have to, or whatever's there, right?
Correct.
So they can get in and around your fence?
Yes.
They have to get through it.
And there's
And
a way
also
to get
through it, and that's down the road.
What do you mean by that?
We have an agreement with National Grid and the village to make sure that National Grid has adequate access to get in and out of the property.
Okay.
Because of the power lines, the restricted area. They need access to the restricted area.
Right. Okay. So like we talked about, you mentioned putting shrubbery there as a point, right? So they can just come and mow down.
Well, anything
So-
obviously at the height of the fences, whether it's 6 or 8 or even 10, that I know that the fence height isn't an issue with the overhead electric line, so the shrubs at that height aren't gonna hurt anything, so
Right.
you could go that high. I'm just saying, I think Peg had mentioned fast-growing trees, and I've seen some of those get tall real quick, and they'd be lopped out. But
Okay.
there are things that could be done.
I mean, if you're looking for, I think there are other methods available. I mean, it would be horrible, but you'd have to manually just reverse all of the words. That's a lot of work, I understand that. So, yes, I think there are other methods though.
So now,
Substantial.
yes. Did you have a comment, by the way? Okay. So next is whether the requested variance is substantial.
There's a lot of different issues involved here. I'm just going to say, based on what we know, based on the conditions or everything that you put into it, I'll say the request is substantial.
I agree. I think it is substantial, not necessarily the height, but just kind of the length of the good side, bad side. So for that, I'm going to say it is substantial.
The bad side facing out on the side that borders the village property, I do feel that is substantial because you see that when you drive in, and I think it just kind of adds to the whole discontinuity of the area. I feel the 8 feet height is not substantial.
Yeah, I mean, I think, yes, it is substantial because of the sheer amount of fence that is reversed. It's a big fence, you know, and a very large portion of that fence would be, I don't know, I mean, I'm just looking at the color and the lines, at least 50% or more of it would be with the bad side facing. So I guess I'd have to say yes, that it is substantial based on that.
Can I just get clarification by when we're saying it's not substantial, in which form or fashion here? Like substantial what? Like a hardship
Yeah, is the requested variance substantial?
to the village or to, like, in whole?
His ask,
Is his ask substantial?
this is what he wants.
Personally, I don't think it's that substantial. I think if you turn the boards and it was forward properly facing, I think this thing would be over a lot faster. But
I'm Luke Sam, Jim Evans. I would like to just say if you flip-flop the panels, that these pickets are installed on a straight line on the top. So the grade of the ground goes like this. So if you take the panel and turn it, then it will have gaps that animals can get under. And also, to remove those boards with a ring shank nail, you're gonna
oh, I know, it's a lot of work.
destroy the board.
So these are
If you
panels
tried to take it
boards?
off and put it on the other side, it wouldn't work.
They were constructed as with individual boards, but at this point, they're fastened together. So the solution here really is I'm gonna be putting panels on the other side. It'll be a sandwich
Okay.
on the, there really is no moving the panels to the other side.
I don't think it's that substantial.
It's substantial, it's a pretty subjective term in that.
Well, that's what
If I
I'm
may,
kinda, that's what I'm kinda
it's-
thinking.
You know, look where it is, and then, but if you look where, it's definitely out of character with the neighborhood. There's no doubt about that.
Right.
But nobody else looks at that. That's all. That's all.
I think
In terms
the
of substantial.
Sorry, I'm Luke's mom. I think the question about substantial has been reversed here in terms of how you're responding.
Yeah, that's
Is it
what, I'd like some
substantial to the village
clarification on
or is
that
it
then.
substantial to the applicant? I think you're talking on opposite sides of it periodically.
Normally when an applicant comes to the board, they're seeking relief for something that they're proposing to do. So if we thought about it that way, we said, I want to put this fence up and I want to go 2 feet higher. And I want to put the bad side facing out. Would the board consider that request substantial from granting that over, not granting that for the reasons you're discussing? So we need to remove the concept that it's done, in my mind, but anyway, I would offer that up. And Bob, I don't know if you have thoughts there.
Well, just, again, looking at the relief that's requested, for example, the 2 feet on the fence would not be substantial when you look at the situation. Particularly with what's in back, it's kind of minor. The question then becomes whether the change in allowing the bad side to be out is a substantial change, excuse me, a large change that would be allowed if the variance were granted. It's like somebody wants a garage and they want it closer to the line, and then they want it right up to the fence of the neighbor or something. That might be substantial because you can always move it back a little bit. But again, this isn't when you look at area variances that may be requested in commercial areas and things like that. This is a neighborhood, and some things that happen in neighborhoods aren't quite as substantial as others. I don't know if that answers anything, but it is. It'll be up to the board to determine whether it is substantial, a substantial change. It's an unusual change, and in that aspect, you might say that it's substantial.
Right. The board members, again, you need to look at that from the standpoint that there's a request being made for a variance to, let's just say, flip the fence from one side to the other. And you have to take into consideration everything that's going on in and around this area to say it's either substantial or not substantial because, in your mind, not because it's there. You need to look at it and say because the water tower's there, because the other things are there. So it's kind of those things. And I just think, and I apologize, I'm trying to be quiet, but I just want to kind of get everybody to kind of think about it the way.
And again, if you decide to grant the variance and you are concerned about it being substantial, then you can impose conditions that would relieve that or change it, such you would take away, for example, if you were to grant the variance conditioned on putting boards on the outside, then it would no longer be substantial because you're basically curing it.
Right. Is that out, Jim?
Yeah.
Thinking, okay.
Yeah.
Anything changing in what you were thinking?
No, so I mean, if you, with that explanation, I think it's not substantial. If he was to sandwich the fence, then I think that would fix the problem, so.
I want to answer that just a little bit differently. A good portion of the fence, you see the bad side of the fence. Roughly half, probably a little less than half because of the house.
Who sees it?
Luke. So you're looking at bad side of fence in your yard.
Yes.
Yep. And the side that concerns me is the side that is up against the village property. So you see good side there, and you see good side on the back side. Looking at it, that you have some bad side of the fence inside your yard, and you want to see the good portion on these areas. I kind of balance that with what I feel the community sees driving by. There's a lot of people that see the bad side of the fence on the spot that abuts up to the village property. And so I kind of look at, everybody's gonna see that bad side. You're gonna see the good side, but you also see bad side of the fence in your yard. So I'm kind of looking at, substantial, and we'll assume the fence isn't there. If you were building the fence, I would say, no, you've got to have that bad side in on that portion of the fence. Because the benefit you would have would be so small compared to the detriment to the community, because they're all going to see the bad side of the fence. So for that reason, I'm thinking the bad side is substantial. The height doesn't concern me as much. So just kind of clarify my thinking, or kind of let you know what I'm thinking. And that's why I was asking kind of about if there's any screening options.
So what if I put panels on the visible portion from the road?
Well, that would be that whole side.
I don't think you can see all the way down. I think you can see maybe
what I was
5 or
saying.
6 panels in the front. And just when you first come around the corner. So what if from the road you see no bad side?
I think that's a viable compromise,
In northwest part of the west, no one sees,
right?
but that is visible.
So maybe I'm moving too fast here, but it seems like there will be probably some contingencies that we want to discuss, but perhaps we get through the questions, we vote, and if we vote in favor, then we can talk about any contingencies with it.
I think before we go, maybe we want to talk about that option.
Okay.
But I think we got another question to go through.
That's I wanted to keep moving through the questions. Okay, so the next would be if the variance has an adverse impact on the physical or environmental conditions of the neighborhood.
Will the variance, I think, we just had this discussion on bad side in or bad side out. If the compromise was in place, I don't see where it would be a problem.
I agree with that. So in other words, no, because I think in a little bit here we'll get to reasons to avoid that.
Yeah, I think I have to say no to environmental or physical conditions. It's not going to cause water issues or things like that. Assuming that we're okay with all of the easements.
Yeah.
The problem, no, I don't see an adverse impact based on the testimony of the people here, the lack of any other testimony saying that they feel that there's an adverse impact.
I have to agree as well. I don't think there's going to be an adverse impact as long as with the contingency that those first 6 panels are fixed. Then I agree.
Sorry, Michelle, we're not using names, but that one was across the board.
Thank you. It's very hard.
Okay, sorry, last question. Whether or not this alleged difficulty was self-created. Again, before we think about it,
Okay,
as if there were no fence yet.
as if there were no fence.
Right.
I'm trying, and it's Peg, I'm trying to voice it, well, it was a detriment to you, obviously, but Again, the question one more time.
Yeah, so whether the alleged difficulty was self-created.
Let me just add that everyone who is constructing within the village is presumed to know the village law. And if you construct a fence that in essence violates the law, that makes it self-created. Just as if you buy a house that your abstract shows that you've got a problem and you buy it anyway, that is self-created because you could have done something about it at the time.
With those words and that explanation that it was a self-created hardship.
Yeah, so that's not critical for an area variance as it is for a use variance.
I also believe that this was this difficulty was self-created.
Yes, it was self-created.
Well, I don't know, like about at least the 8-foot piece of it, like if there's these big spotlights that are shining lights into their house, they didn't create that, right? So for them to want to have something to block that light off and not having any reasonable option available that I can think of, looking at it from that standpoint, at least for the 8 feet, I don't see it being self-created. Having that as your border in a household, like they didn't create all those towers and all of that junk all around them that they physically don't want to look at kind of thing, so they didn't create that part of the issue, so I'm going to say that it was not self-created from that standpoint.
If I may ask a question, because I am the alternate, the permit was obtained to erect a fence, correct? The permit was,
No.
so,
Yes.
And so we got stop work order and
Okay.
we settled with the village
Okay.
and took care of all that. I do want to point out again, it's for a use variance, that if it's self-created, that's a higher standard. For us, with an area variance, it's something that you guys obviously can weigh, but it's not determinative. Just looking at number 2 here, and again, it's not an absolute bar to an area variance request. Again, it gets down to discretion and forgiveness going forward. I don't know why I have that in my brain, but it is, you have a little bit more wiggle room with an area variance for sure. That's all.
Right, and some things, as Rocky was just saying, some things, I mean, the decision to do something because is always going to be self-created. I'm deciding to do something. But when you have an impact on the environment around you, like the height of the lights or the water towers and the things that are there, you may not have a choice of those things. So some of it, again, it's not detrimental. I don't think there's ever been a variance that we've had that, you can't make the case that it's self-created because the person wants to do it. So, but again, you need to look at the whole.
great. I believe that difficulty was self-created, because, well, what if you didn't obtain the permit or you didn't look into the rules of the village? I mean, I don't know how old you are, you don't have to tell me, but I mean, most fences, nice side faces out, so I would assume at your age you know the difference or the expectations, but I would have to say that the difficulty was self-created.
Okay, so, Kevin, I believe I'd like to talk about, before we bring votes, talk through potential solutions or contingencies.
Well, I would certainly want to think about screening. I mean, I think everybody can kind of sense that my concern is just seeing a lot of that backside of the fence. I think, the way you drive in, it kind of juts out a little bit, so you tend to see a little bit more of that side of the fence. And, if you were seeking a variance to build a fence with the bad side out there, I would be inclined not to give it to you. I'm trying to see if there's a way that we can do a workaround somehow that kind of addresses kind of that line of sight, and that is my concern, is that, you know, what we see, and everybody driving on that road is gonna see it, and, you know, and I know there's a lot of ugly going around in that area, and it just kind of adds to it. When I first drove up, I kind of liked how, you know, there was the little gravel driveway, and then there were some shrubs planted there, and it's like, okay, they're trying, you know. I like the way that dressed that up and kind of separated, you know, some of that industrial commercial from the yard. So I just, you know, don't know if there's any, you know, what the board's feelings are, if there's any option that could be a simpler option to do some screening.
So Luke, you mentioned earlier of doing the double sides where it shows. Is that amenable to the board?
Repeat that.
Luke was saying that he would take a section on Aspen Road, I'm assuming, and then wherever it showed, because the other side backed up to the woods.
Correct. Or the village property, you cannot see.
So what I was saying is,
what's visible
what
from
if I
Aspen
put
Street?
panels on any portion of the fence that you can see from the road? So that from the road, from the neighbors, there's no portion of the fence that's visible, good side, bad side.
Well, I think that the backside, the backside of the fence, I don't think it's a big issue, good side, bad side, because nobody really sees that, right? That would be in the back, so I'm looking at I guess I'd call the north side.
North side, yeah.
Northwest.
Yeah, you know, that portion of the fence, that's the one that concerns me. I'm gonna walk down there because show you what I'm thinking. So we're thinking of doing something.
Of course, pointing north, it's training. Yes, what you're seeing coming in here, because it's not like all this is blocked. It's where you are here is what you're trying to say.
Yeah,
It's
where
that way
you're coming in and,
you wind in.
If you can
you know, I don't know how far down.
I think it's only about 6 or 7 panels that you can see if you look around the trees as you drive in.
Yes. And, you know, what I might say is if it was 3 panels, shrub or something.
The only problem is the gravel access drive. I intentionally put the fence 6 feet off the gravel access drive to allow space for the village to follow. And so I don't suspect that a shrub would survive.
Here's here's the drive.
Yep.
And I don't know what happens up there.
I can show you.
So they've all looped.
Yep, so that's as it's marked on the survey, you can see the gravel area. That's not all gravel, the access road.
So access road.
I said it's marked very light. This, and then curve along the fence.
I looked and I didn't put, because the fence, I don't think the fence is there now.
Right, so that's just how that's.
You can see where that gravel drive, so basically,
I see what you're saying. So you don't have a lot of room on the other side of the fence, okay.
so the solution again would be panels on the backside for the visible portion of the road.
For something that would last.
Yeah. The village uses the village driveway is, there is some access areas that go relatively close to the fence. So if we planted something there close to the fence, it probably isn't gonna survive because of their plowing and things, right?
It may.
You know,
I couldn't say.
They're, how far from the fence, just, is
I
the ground?
intentionally put the fence 6 feet away from the gravel drive. So as the drive passes the fence, there's 6 feet of clearance between the edge of the gravel and the fence. There's planted grass between.
Yeah. And kind of wanted that for the benefit of the board that didn't hear our discussion there, so. So planning something for screening may not be as feasible as I thought, from what you're saying, right? Is there some sort of vine you could put on the fence?
I'll plant whatever you want.
I,
You just tell me what to plant, where to plant it. and I'll do whatever you want.
I'm just, what's a solution that might work is what I'm thinking. And I mean, I've got fences, I've got vines on it. It's a little more of a shadow side, so I don't know how that would work. But, you know, I know I've got,
It's the shadow side.
I know, I've got.
You got it.
I don't know, anybody else have thoughts about where I'm going with that?
I think I lost you, sorry. No, if, you know, my go-to was always plant a tree, you can hide it that way. Or, as you mentioned, if it's feasible, if you can double side where it shows, and what would be the detriment with that, to double side it up until on the village side?
Both good sides.
Yeah. I think the board just got to decide, you know, if you're going to condition, you know, there's two things you're being asked for.
Right.
You know, whether there's conditions, if you did it without any conditions, with, you know, you could take a vote, you could do it that way, or you could say that if there's conditions that you feel, you know, should be met or could be met, that may be, you vote on that, but.
I think there's 3 conditions. One is the village and DPW signing off on this. Second is National Grid. Then, you know, access and entry points and all that sort of stuff. And then the third is whether it's additional paneling or
Some kind of
planting,
barrier.
shrubbery, something like that. And also, just kind of bringing this higher level, kind of sounds like we're all on the same page with the height. It doesn't seem like that's a detriment or a problem or anything like that. It's really just about the one side of the fence, good side, bad side.
Yeah. I think the height, we pretty much, you explained it because you have the lights shining in.
Yeah. The only thing that bothered me about the height was the corner, the transition from 6 to 8. If at all possible,
Plant a shrub there.
Yeah, but you know, that was.
I'll send you the website.
The height difference stands out there, and that's where I think where it's noticeable. And
Arborvitae on the corner.
there you go.
Got it.
So with regard whether we panel or shrubbery, do we leave that up to the applicant or do we set that?
You guys need to decide if you're gonna, you know, you're gonna be voting on whether the benefit to the applicant outweighs the detriment to the neighborhood and the community based on what you've talked about, or the reverse. And if you say that, you know, you wanna vote with conditions or without conditions, I think you just need to put up to a vote what you wanna, what the board wants to consider. If, I mean, if the applicant, you guys, if you want.
So I would be in favor of it being granted with just the village and the National Grid conditions being set aside kind of thing with no other updates to it. So I would vote, just a FYI, if we took a vote on us not setting any visual conditions on this, I would vote in favor of that. So I'm okay with there not being any conditions visually being adjusted by the applicant.
can we start with a vote on visual conditions, see where we are there? And then,
But do we want to come up with an agreement on which one? I mean, the only thing, if you do paneling or foliage, foliage is going to die during the fall and winter, and it's going to be useless, right? It's not going to fix the problem. Where paneling is a one-time thing and it's done. I would like to see a vote on the paneling, because then it's fixed. It's what, you said 6 panels deep, so that's 60 feet?
A little bit less, they're 8-foot panels.
8-foot panels, okay, so you're talking 50 feet. 50 feet of double-sided, and it's done forever. You don't have to worry about springtime, wintertime, things dying. So,
okay, then I need a motion to vote on the condition of paneling.
if the board agrees with that.
Could I comment on foliage?
Sure.
Foliage does die, correct, but it doesn't mean it falls off. I don't know if it's gonna matter on a winter day. I don't know, just throwing that out there.
Yeah, what you really want to do is vote, your decision on what the conditions are going to be, and then put a vote to let the board vote on
They
it.
just get a consensus.
Right. Yeah, get a consensus.
So if the benefit doesn't go down.
Exactly.
Okay.
I think that's what you're going to be asking the board to talk about. Basically, based on what you're talking about right now, and one-sided or two-sided, and the other conditions that need to be met, does the benefit outweigh the detriment, yes or no?
Okay, I'll start there. Okay, so we'll do a vote. If we can use our names, please.
Yes. Thank you. Ed,
Does the benefit to the applicant, does it or does it not outweigh the detriment to the neighborhood or community?
And do you want to talk about conditions or not?
I think the detriment to the applicant outweighed the effect on the community as a whole. But I'll go back to, if it's feasible, put the boarding in. That's my stand on that.
So that,
Partial boarding.
so with conditions,
Correct.
the benefit does outweigh the detriment to the community or neighborhood.
Yes.
What about without?
What about without?
Okay, I'll go without. I would prefer that it was adjusted, but I can live with the other. I can live with no changes.
Okay. I think that Matthew Fox, I think the benefit to the applicant does outweigh the detriment to the neighborhood or community with conditions.
Yeah, those conditions are.
Those conditions are the compliance with the village, with National Grid, and paneling on the bad side of the fence.
And Michelle, if I can retract, the okay has to come from Mark Peg. It has to be okayed by the village and National Grid.
Kevin, so we'll assume that we meet the requirements of the village and National Grid. Those have to be met. Without conditions, any conditions as it is, I feel that the detriment or the benefit to the applicant does not outweigh the detriment to the community. If we're putting some conditions on to do some screening or kind of adjust the fence a little bit, then I would be yes.
Paco, Nali, so I would say that if the conditions from National Grid and the village are met, the benefit outweighs the detriment to the community without any further conditions. So if if the rest of the board wanted to put conditions on it, obviously I would be in favor of that also, but I'm in favor of it without us even asking for further conditions.
Just to clarify, your conditions are the village
Just
and
the
national.
Village and National Grid, exactly.
Jim Sarnkowski. The benefits outweigh the detriment to the community. I think with the village and National Grid, and with the double-sided panels for the first 50 feet, that's what I'd be in agreement with.
Okay. Seems like.
So I think the benefit outweighs, I'm in agreement that does outweigh the detriment to the community is with those
with the
exceptions. Yeah, with the panels and National Grid and the village.
Okay. So I think we're all on the same page in terms of the conditions, except for Rocco, is there a little limited impact?
I think we're 2 and 3.
I said if it was an absolute, that I would go without.
Okay.
So it's kind of a 2-2 tie.
I think we
2 or
got.
3.
Yeah, 2 or 3. So 3 in favor with the 3 conditions of village,
Okay.
National Grid, and paneling on for 50 feet.
First, according to his measurements, is the first 50 feet that are visible.
I'll make it not visible from the road.
Correct. Perfect.
Yeah, so that's what you'd want to ask the applicant, if he's willing to make the changes that you're talking about, because right now that's a no vote. Height was fine. Conditions from village and NYMER were fine, everyone agreed with that. The condition that failed was the bad side out.
That side out.
For that visible portion from the road. So if the applicant's willing to make that adjustment, then you could adjust the application? Is that what we do, Bob, or just?
Yeah, I mean, you can, if you want, again, I think the one I'm seeing, the vote to grant the variance is unanimous. The vote to grant the first 2 conditions are unanimous. And then a majority of the board would require the last condition.
Right.
So you can just go ahead and vote on the, if you want, you can take votes on the variance itself, subject to conditions, and then vote on 1, 2, and 3.
So all in favor of granting the variance? That's our first question.
Aye.
That's,
And then we move into the conditions.
is that everyone?
Did I get that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so the first vote is to grant the variance. All in favor?
Aye.
I'm confused. Granting the variance without the additional,
No, with
oh, with the additional?
With additional.
Yes, Kevin.
Yes, Peg.
So it's unanimous.
It's unanimous.
And then the first condition, all in favor with
Village approval.
village approval? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, everyone.
Second condition with National Grid's approval and whatever you want.
Conforming with the agreement between the village and National Grid. The question then becomes whether the village wants to put a time limit on that. In other words, do you want to say, because here we're talking about opening up 20 feet on each side, that's pursuant to the agreement. Do you want to put together a time limit as to when that must be accomplished? Because otherwise, with the variances granted, the panels go up, and 3 or 4 or 5 months from now, we still have an issue with the access. So I think again, it's just my suggestion that the board put a time limit on compliance with the National Grid and Village agreement.
Yeah, couldn't the board just ask the applicant to produce, a letter agreement from the 2 parties before the village issues the building permit? So, in other words, just get a letter from the village that says there's no issue with the village agreement, and get the letter or the license from National Grid that says you're in compliance. And with those two things, present those to the board, or to the code enforcement officer and say, can you give me my building permit now?
Well, I mean, you could make the entire thing conditioned on,
I
once
would.
that's done.
Yeah, so I think that's the easier way, because then it's like there's no outstanding issues. I mean,
Right.
I don't know if that's okay with you. You said you already had the agreements in place.
We are going to need something in writing that allows us to replace the shed as well. A permit has not been granted for the shed. Permit has not been granted for the fence. So there's,
Right. And to me, I think those permits could be issued upon producing the written evidence that you've got permission from the parties that were having the problem in the first place. I mean, that's how I handle it, yeah. Then there's, the time limit is, it's up to the applicant.
Well, and up to the village too, because.
But the village, the applicant's got to approach the village and the other entities, whoever's got
Because
this.
the village has already entered into an agreement that certain things need to be done, or if they're not done, then the village has to proceed on its own, and that's something we can work out. But I don't want to be back discussing these issues in 3-4 months.
That's why I think if the village, if the code enforcement officer was produced with a letter from the village that said, these things have been met,
Yeah,
you don't worry about 6 months or 2 months or 3 months, it's just when
and
we
then
get
the
there.
variances, yeah, because the variance, you're not going to be building anything relative to the variance. That was, it's not a variance to build a new building. What's there is there, and.
the fence is not completed though pursuant to the work order. There's gaps. And, but I think the village is the first step because I need a little cooperation from National Grid and they've cut off all discussion. So, but that's a separate issue that I'd like to think that we can reopen that and then we're done.
Yes,
So,
I can draft something.
Okay. Yeah, I think that would take the time element away from the board, they don't need to worry about it. I think it would just be conditioned on that the easement holders have
Yeah.
agreed.
I guess the vote becomes an agreement between the village and National Grid is produced and
Prior to building permit being issued, however.
Compliance.
Yeah, it would compliance, yeah.
okay, so let's try to get this one right. So voting on condition 2, which is that there is an agreement between the village and National Grid, a letter of compliance produced and delivered to the village ahead of the building permit being granted. All in favor?
Aye.
Yeah, the variance is granted, subject to the conditions of the easement holders being met.
And then 3.
3.
And then the third condition is voting in regard to putting paneling on the quote-unquote bad side that is visible from the road, 50 feet. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
So,
Next motion is to adjourn.
very good. Need a motion to adjourn.
I got one quick item for us.
Also, we got to move this.
I would ask, so just make sure, Bob, you're going to draft the resolution that states those conditions.
Yes, I'll do that. After I watch the movie.
Luke, you good? Yep. You know what you gotta do? All right, thank you. Thanks, John.
thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, so actually, the motion to adjourn.
Okay, I get a motion to adjourn.
No, we're gonna talk
No, we
about
have
something else.
stuff
I thought you were gonna.
Yes.
Geez, you wanted out of here. The village has had some discussion at the board meetings, and they have gone through 2 rounds of removing illegal telephone pole signs that are in the right of way, you know, the ones that say, well, clean your roof or line your Christmas tree lights. And so the last meeting there, they were doing another round of takedown on those, and it came up that the cost that the village is incurring for taking these signs down, and it was mentioned that we have some fines for illegal signs, but wherever it is, the town of Newburgh has code very specific to those types of signs, those illegal telephone pole signs. And this is a copy of their code, and I'm wondering if it's something that we would recommend the village adopt along these lines. I'm not saying specifically word for word, but they are, you know, they're talking about this problem, and I think this is a way to address it. It has some of the verbiage in there that, you know, that if there is a sign and there's contact information, we'll assume that that person is responsible, and a way of notifying them, and then fines once they're notified of it. You know, a fine would be incurred each day after their notification, and then they can even go after the people for cost of removing them. So because the village board has talked about these things, I'm just wondering if we want to suggest that maybe they adopt something like this, and if we want to do that.
So this is really more a suggestion to them, because it's really not a ZBA issue, unless they were coming to us to get a variance to put a sign back there.
No, this is the code committee now.
What was that? Yeah, okay.
Well, and, you know, my thinking is I drive around, I see all these signs, and it's like, why are all these signs here? And the village is asking the same questions. We're you know, and they are talking about it, but we are the ones probably most tuned into signs and zoning that, you know, this is something that I found, if we want to kind of give this a once over, and yeah, maybe we would recommend the village should adopt something like this. So that's where I'm at on it.
So it's just a simple homework assignment for folks, because I don't think, again, anything in here is going to impact our zoning board rules and regulations. It's going to be with you know.
No, but what it is, it's something, as the board has done before, you have taken a look at issues within the village and then made recommendations relative to, it's like, you know, relative to fixing up our code, so to speak. And this would actually help the board if somebody wants to come in and get a variance for something on, that they want to keep putting things on poles, and there's no real regulation in the village, so to speak.
Further defines what the
Yes,
exceptions are.
that's right. This makes it very specific.
So we're talking about the garage sale sign at the Four Corners and things like
No,
that.
I like it.
Yeah.
I'll take a look at it, and we can talk about it at the next meeting, but.
Okay, and we can go back and forth, and I'll draft something for the village, and then we can make changes as we go forward.
Okay.
How about I send out an email in a week or so? Yes, I like it. No, I don't like it.
Okay, that'd be good.
And, you know, you kind of get up, you know, rather than wait till the next meeting, if we're kind of all on the same page with this, and then, you know.
It's not an official act, so you can actually vote by email. I mean, you can go ahead and say, I've looked at this briefly, and it looks good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't go through all the ins and outs, and I don't know if we need to change things
Yeah.
for Baldwin.
But generally speaking, it looked pretty good.
But, you know,
No,
I will send out an email in a week and see where we're at with it, and then I'll talk about from there.
Initial question, if these types of things change, how
How do we
does the
enforce it?
general population learn about this, right? Like, or is there like?
It'd be the local law, then it'd be public hearing at the village board.
the village board.
Like we did with our sign code, you know.
Right, I'm just wondering like how
And,
many people
the
are
other one
putting
that
in,
they just
right? And so
adopted
like, do you get a
was,
one-time, you can't do this, not get fined immediately?
Well, that's what they were talking about, that, you know, different steps
Yeah.
and this kind of.
And they just adopted another change relative to requiring, the language of the village code was that the planning board may require a site plan under the following circumstances.
Shall.
We changed that to say shall require. And I think I brought that up before.
That was the
It's a little bit
language.
All right.
All right, before our motion to adjourn, one more question. I just want to get the McGuire thing squared away, because it was on the agenda tonight. there's no further action for us to take on that? They withdrew their application?
Temporarily, I mean, I think, well, first of all, they withdrew the application. There's no way that well, it was not submitted correctly anyway, because they were asking for an area variance to override a directive from the village board by local law that non-conforming signs must be taken down. So I don't know, as I said, it's my opinion that this board had no jurisdiction over an area variance when you're talking about village-wide prohibitions. Now, their council indicated that there's a provision under our sign chapter that says that an applicant can appeal a decision by the codes officer to the zoning board of appeals. Now, they can appeal an opinion of the codes officer, but in my opinion, they can't appeal a codes officer issuing a tear down your sign pursuant to a specific local law that was granted by the village. So that's what I'm going to get back to them on.
Well, while we're meeting right now, and this is what I was going to be saying anyway, is, do we ask for a motion tonight to have the village attorney, you, draft a resolution stating that the local law requiring the removal of all non-conforming signs did not grant the ZBA the power to grant exceptions, and the ZBA does not have the power to consider an application.
But they took it away.
They did take it away, but you wanted to memorialize it, because I thought it could just be an attorney letter anyway, so do we want to memorialize it, or there's no value to that?
Well, I mean, theoretically, since...
Oh, yeah, there's no
it's not on the table.
application, right, yeah, there's no, so we're just writing it to vapor, it's
We've
vapor.
already denied the people.
Okay.
I'm sorry?
We already denied them.
Yeah, and right now, there's nothing before the board.
Okay.
Okay. All right, so motion to adjourn?
Second. So moved, Kevin.
Wait, who's first?
Kevin,
Second?
Peg,
Rocco.
Peg and Rocco.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, and thank you for doing the meeting.